Hello, my name is Barbara Field, and welcome to the Journey of Grief, Becoming Us Without Them. I started this channel so that people who are grieving all kinds of losses could hear from people who can help them understand their grief, realize all forms of grief are perfect, and that you're not alone in your grief, and maybe some resources. And so today I've invited 3 parents of children with special needs to share their story with us and help us understand all of the things that have to be grieved on that particular journey. And so, Monica, would you like to start and tell us about yourself and your son?
Yeah, sure. I'm Monica. My son is Sawyer. He's 13 years old now. I have 2 boys. He's the youngest, and my 2 boys are 10 years apart. So it's kind of important, and you'll know why. um, our older son is pretty much finishing high school, out of the school when Sawyer got diagnosed with type 1 diabetes. Um, and it is kind of interesting, even just the beginning, how it happened, because I'm a nurse and I started seeing the signs and symptoms way before, but the denial, kind of like that little hope of like, no, it cannot be, it's like, it's gotta be something else. And, but then it was just getting too obvious. And decided, even when I told my husband, it's like, hey, I think Sawyer has diabetes. And he's like, what? Where you get that? Because there's no uh, any family history. There's nothing. No one in my side of the family or in my husband's side that even has any kind of diabetes. Um, but I knew better. I saw the symptoms, and like I said, the denial was like, you know what, we need to check it, because if it is, he's gonna need insulin, and we need to know. And we both kind of were like hoping that it was something else, but unfortunately, there's something else. It was worse, so we needed to know. Um, Check with the doctor, and of course, it had to be like a crazy day when we had a checkup, and yeah, they confirmed, yes, you were right. He has type 1 diabetes. He spent about 5 days in the hospital. He was not extremely ill. The main reason we stayed in the hospital is it was at the peak of COVID in 2020, November 2020. And there were a lot of protocols about being in the hospital. And when a child gets diagnosed with type 1, there's a lot of education. So they need to make sure that the parents feel comfortable taking the child home and that they know. Um, and I'm glad. I mean, we didn't want to spend much time in the hospital, but I was fortunate to have a good nurse friend who she herself has type 1. And she kind of, that was a blessing, because she really helped me navigating that. Because on top of that, it's not just the shocking news about this new situation in our family, is also there's a lot of insurance things that we needed to navigate, a lot of medication. So honestly, we didn't have much time to grieve. It was like, go, go, go. You need to start asking your insurance for this, for that, for that. Because if you don't, the beginning is going to be really rough. Um, and as a nurse, I knew the difference, but I never really knew exactly what it was like having it. Um, anyway, so he was 8 years old when he was diagnosed, and it was COVID. Again, kind of like crazy, but it was a little bit of a blessing in disguise, because um, the beginning is like a 24/7 job. We had to like be pricking his finger every 4 hours. he cannot eat anything without insulin. And when they are newly diagnosed, you do insulin injections. And that was something to, you can imagine a kid having to deal with that. Um, well, and then COVID, it was COVID. I started working from home. My husband was working from home too. He's a teacher. They send them to teach from home. And that really gave us, it was a team effort. It was a lot of work. Um, and then, like I said, I had this really good friend. She just kind of put a path for us that what it's going to be like, and the things that we needed to focus on, and the things that we really didn't, that seemed big, but it's like, it's not really going to affect you much. At the beginning, it was rough for everyone, lack of sleep, mostly on us, because that's the one thing that we kind of work with my husband. It's like, we're going to try to make his life as normal as possible. But that meant, that one of us couldn't sleep much, or it's just pretty complicated disease. He uses a continuous glucose monitor. And even with my knowledge, I really didn't know a lot of the implications, what the variables are when you are dependent on insulin, especially for a child. Well, on top of that, we also got news that he might have celiac disease. So a couple months later, we had to follow up with that. And because it was COVID, they wanted to hospitalize him again to do an endoscopy. And by then, Sawyer was definitely like, no, I'm not going back to the hospital. He was all traumatized. And I was too, because it was still COVID, January 2021. And there was a lot of protocols where I wasn't going to be able to be with him. And I was like, you know what? I was like, no, I don't want to do this now. And so he said, well, then you're going to have to start eating gluten-free. So it was on top of having diabetes. Now we also had a restricted diet. And that one was probably harder than, you're like, you just get used to it. Like, okay, we're learning how to deal with all these different things. And now one more thing, I think it was rough, but I don't remember. I think we always try to put not happy face, but we never like mop around our son. So I think I remember one of the first things I was like, how is he gonna swim? How is he gonna go to birthday parties and eat? How a lot of questions, and those are the little questions that at the end are not that important, because we learn how to work around those things. But there are realities, and one of the things is, fortunately, he's not into it. But let's say he wanted to be a pilot or something related. As a type 1, he cannot do that as of now. There are certain careers, pathways as an adult that are going to be harder for him. There's a lot of technology now to help with his disease, but it's still a 24/7. It is much easier now that we're 4 years in. Well, he's more involved. We are more knowledgeable. One thing that I learned is, it doesn't get any better, but we get better, because there's a lot of misunderstanding about this disease. A lot of people say, oh, is he gonna grow out of it, or it's gonna get better, right? And I was like, no, he does not have a pancreas. His body is never gonna produce insulin. He's always gonna need insulin. So that's another thing, like we always have to be thinking, okay, what kind of insurance coverage we have, what type of financial future we see for him to help him navigate. It's all those things that we need to think about it. Like for now, I know that until he's 26, he can be in our insurance, but what we need to start planning for when he's older. I know he's only 13, but those are the things that, sometimes wakes me up and like, okay, what are we gonna do for this? And at the same time, allowing him to just be a kid. I don't want to be having these discussions with him, but we do have some pretty serious discussions because it is a life-threatening disease. Insulin is a high-risk medication. So in order for him to take control, he really needs to be super knowledgeable. And that's another thing, a misconception that people has. A lot of people, even in the medical field, is like, oh, it's his disease. He needs to know how to work with it. And I'm like, no, I am going to do everything I can because I know he's going to let me know when he's ready for it. We're very lucky that in our town, and we live in Reno. We have like a dedicated association for type 1 diabetes for kids, which is extremely lucky. We're a small city and we happen to have that kind of support. So they have these summer camps and a couple other camps through the year and a lot of like get togethers. So we've been able to meet with other families with kids with this disease. And it's not just therapeutic for us. It's also mostly for Sawyer. I think he likes seeing what other kids are wearing and how are they managing certain situations. It's a good support, but when it comes to my son, I do feel pretty proud that we've managed to just, what you want to do. Do you want to practice this sport? You want to go to this camp? And it just takes a lot of preparation, but we let him do what he wants. And honestly, like when you talk to him, you wouldn't know anything is any different with him. And in situations where he's been asked, usually in our support groups, when there's meetings, they'll ask him what is the hardest part or what do you think about diabetes, and he honestly says, oh, I don't know, my mom is the one who deals with it. Which is, some people might frown at it, but that's what I want for him. I just want him to focus on being a kid, focus on school, his sports and experience. And through the support groups, I know that once the kids start being teenagers is usually the time when they want more independence and they start taking over the management. So I'm just waiting for that time. I also had some counseling from adults who, like Sawyer, were diagnosed as kids, who they second that. They say once he's ready, you're gonna see it, and he's gonna be taking care of that. When it came to grieving, to me it was something interesting. I like kind of shut down. I didn't want to. Sorry.
Crying is good.
I did not want to talk to anyone. I don't know why, but for about a month, I didn't. Sorry, I just didn't want to talk to anyone. But once we felt more comfortable, And then we started reaching out and figuring out more support. I don't know why, but I think that's how I responded to the news. Anyways, we all had counseling, and well, that was good for all of us. I think, especially me, I do not like to do this in front of him. So with therapy, it's helping. Yeah. Yeah, you have questions?
I'm gonna let the next person introduce themselves, but thank you. That was so awesome. Thank you for that. Okay, Cody, how about you? Would you like to introduce us to you and your son and your journey?
Yep. Cody Palmer. I work for Team Recovery. My story is actually pretty long, extensive. There's kind of a lot to it, but I'll try to shorten and condense it so I don't talk everybody's ear off too long. But it was pretty painful. It was very complicated. And it wasn't just my son that we had to deal with in the first place. So at the very beginning, me and my wife decided that we were going to have a third kid. And then we found out that we were actually having identical twin mono twins, which is very rare. I don't know if you have ever heard of mono twins, Monica.
Mm-mm.
You're a nurse. But it's really rare. It's like 2% of all the identical twins in the world. Essentially what happens is the egg splits, the baby split, but the sac and the placenta never split. So it's a really high risk pregnancy because because there's two actual umbilical cords in the same sac together, and they always get knotted up together. And if the umbilical cords grow too much and it cuts off blood circulation, it'll kill essentially one of the babies. And then it'll kill the other baby because it'll contaminate the amniotic fluid.
Mm.
So that alone was heavy on us. And then we found, we went from like, oh, this is so beautiful. We're gonna have twins. This is crazy. We already have two. Now we have four. So it was beautiful. And then we found out about the mono twins. And then we found out, okay, well, now we're not just dealing with a pregnancy, we're dealing with a whole nother element of, well, we got to go to a whole different hospital. We have to have whole different care providers. My wife had to go live in the hospital from 26 weeks until they went to term. So she lived in the hospital for 2.5 months while I was a licensed general contractor watching the older two. And so we were literally living our lives together and separately and just trying to survive one day at a time. And then about to the point where she actually started living in the hospital, I think at 18 weeks, actually, we found out that one of my boys actually has congenital heart disease. One of his ventricles didn't get enough blood flow. And so he essentially was born with half his heart.
Mm.
And actually having those type of twins, they're usually born early. And having a congenital heart disease kid born early is very low chance of him surviving. So we got dawned on that. And all we could do at that point was just go, well, we're gonna just go with whatever happens. And when God we'll just go with that. We made it to 32 weeks. Thank God things went pretty well. At that point, he had his first major heart surgery at 11 days old. Things went really, really well. That's kind of when I decided that I needed to make a change and get into recovery. I was drinking a lot during the pregnancy, and it was very hard on my family, and it was very hard on me, and I just knew that I needed to be a little bit better. And so that's when I started that. And then the babies were both up in, believe it or not, they took one of the heart baby, which is Austin. They took him to a whole nother hospital. Granted, there's two hospitals right next to each other in Utah. And so my wife, she was still coming home and sleeping at home after that, but she was driving up to the hospital every day to breastfeed them,
Uh,
and that was a whole nother 95 days. So it was just a long road of this and this and that and this and that. And now that we've gone through, I mean, he's 4.5 now. He's had over 28 surgeries, whether that's cath labs or little ones, or even like if he gets a cavity, we have to take him to the hospital and actually have it put under for his certain situation. And it's just been extremely difficult. And in the end, yeah, it was hard, but it also created a lot of strength in our marriage. Luckily enough, I'm married to a pretty wonderful woman that's, a mama bear for her kids, and she really pulls it together when she has to, and when she's struggling, I try to pull it together for her. So, but it's been a long road, and so long story short, we're still going through it. It's never ending battle. I think he went to the hospital like 3 days ago just for something, and that we had to just go check up on him, and things were fine. But yeah, it's been a roller coaster of ups and downs, and trying to just do my best and start a new career with team recovery. So after that, my best friend Preston Dixon, he just happens to be the CEO of Team Recovery, and he knew of my current medical debt situation, and he's like, dude, now you're in recovery, you understand kind of what we go through. He's like, maybe I can help you out. You can come work with me, and I can help you pay off some medical debt. And essentially, I was really terrible at this at the very beginning, but I found my kind of heart in it, and I ended up finding really enjoy the recovery community, and helping people, find their way there, which is great. And so I do a lot of things over here at Team Recovery now, and so it gives me I'm proud to do what I do, which is really cool. Um, but yeah, still going through it all, and but at least positive. And I've always been a really optimistic, positive person, so I try not to think and dwell on the negative, but in the end, you're still going through it together. So you're just really doing your best. I mean, all of us are going through a lot. And I don't know a ton about diabetes. I know that I have a brother-in-law that has has it. I know that it's a little easier as they get a little older because technology has definitely helped quite a bit. So I'm excited for things to get easier for you, Monica. Um, but yeah, life can be hard if you have the wrong outlook.
it can be hard regardless of whether you have a good outlook or not.
I'll give you that.
I had a mentor who said, well, honey, you can go to heaven with a lemon in your mouth, but you don't have to.
Right.
Okay, Deanna, welcome, and tell us about you and your son.
All right, I'm Deanna, and my son is Sean. He is almost 15 in a couple months. It's crazy. Um, he was diagnosed with autism spectrum disorder right before his third birthday. And I always, like when he was about maybe 1.5, we knew he was different because he would like look up at the ceiling and count, or he'd say, you know, A for apple, A-P-P-L-E, B for ball, B-A-L-L, and go through the whole alphabet and doing that all day long. And I was like, well, I haven't seen that before. And he wouldn't really like playing with little kids and things like that. So we decided to get him tested and got the diagnosis. And so he's went to special preschool and had some help during school. In after first grade, we moved him to a private school because the school district wasn't very helpful. So that's when I learned, like, oh, this is, you have to fight the battles at home and at school and everywhere. So I learned a lot about resilience and to keep going. And so then his private school, you know, it only goes up to a certain grade. So he went back to public school for 6th through 8th grade, or 7th and 8th grade, excuse me. And he did pretty well there. He did really well. And in, you know, a little bit, maybe right about a year after he was diagnosed, we had his brother. So we have Lucas, and Lucas is 10. And he's been a real help to Sean, kind of bringing him out to play with others and have conversations, kind of forcing him out of his shell, because Lucas is a force and he will, you know, you must deal with Lucas. So that's been good. Sean was also in ABA therapy for behavioral therapy from the time he was 3 up until last year. He graduated from ABA. And there he was working mostly with, you know, social situations, how to have back and forth conversation, how to, you know, be attuned with the people that are around you. And, you know, with autism, he's not aware of social cues. So like when you and I know when someone's bored when you're talking, he doesn't. So he'll just keep talking. So he learned those things. He's always done well academically. It's the social where he's never really had friends. And so that's been hard. He just started high school a couple weeks ago. He's in the 9th grade. And he's doing well. He's coming home and talking about beginning drama class and how they're doing improv and sharing stories from school, which he never did before. So that's like a big deal. I'm always hopeful because he has like the best personality and the best smile, and he has so much joy. And I don't want the world to take that. Because, you know, people aren't very kind. Especially now, I feel like Monica was bringing up COVID. I feel like ever since then, I think we as a people have kind of lost our empathy chips and we've lost our patience, and we don't take the time to see each other. And so I just want people to see him and see how great he is. And so he's doing great, but I'm a mess worrying about him. But like when I bring things to his attention, he's like, why would I worry about that? And I'm like, is everything great at school? He's like, yeah. Or are you asking me that because things weren't good for you in high school? And I was like, yeah, that's why I'm asking you. So he's like oblivious in most cases. The next thing that he's doing is through the Alta Regional Center, they have this group that does safety awareness classes for kids with special needs. And so he has like a 12-week series where he's going to learn about online safety and, you know, talking to people and, you know, things to look out for that he is not aware of. So I'm grateful for that. He's just an awesome kid. It was funny when Barbara asked me to be a part of this group. I had never really associated grief with having a special needs child, but I was like, well, yeah, I do grieve things, but as I thought about it, I'm grieving things that haven't happened. Like he's here, he's present, but I'm grieving what I thought his life would be, or the things that I thought we'd have an easy road. Now it's different. So you have to readjust your thinking. And so that's where I'm at, constantly recalculating for the best outcome.
Yeah, so that's a good segue into that. So just thinking about that idea of grief, and it's not whining. Whining is if you go on and on and on about it and nothing ever changes and you don't do anything new and you never resolve it and you don't go to therapy. You just get stuck in this experience that you have no control and you never will. And but it's okay, like both of you have all expressed pain of what we want for our kids and what we're able to provide our kids and what's even possible for our kids. There's constantly grieving things, right? And so let's talk a little bit more for each of you. What have been like the images of the future that have died for you and for your child, whether your child knows it or not? So do you want to just keep going, Deanna?
Yeah, sure. Like, with the friends, like I never imagined my child wouldn't have friends. And like I said, he's gravitated towards the adults, because they were always more predictable. Kids are, all over the place, when you crave stability. And like, I remember my husband saying he dropped him off at school one day and some girl walked past him and was like, oh, that's it. There's that weird kid. There's that weirdo. And the girl's dad was like, what? And my husband was like, what? And it's like, what? And he was like 7. And it's just like, we're not even aware. And so it's just that the idea that he's always going to be different, the grieving normalcy for my child, whatever that means nowadays. But our idea of what normal is, he won't, not that he won't ever have friends, because I know he will, but it's just going to take him a while to want to have that kind of relationship and he doesn't even know what he's missing, is the other thing. He has his brother as a friend. And I'm sure there's a couple of kids he talks to, but there's going to be nobody coming over after school. We don't really go to birthday parties. He stopped having them after he was about 4. And so it's just grieving, like the expectations, like what we always think, like, what will they be when they grow up, or what kind of, man they will be. You always think, oh, what kind of father will he be? Not that any of that will happen either way, whether our kids are special needs or not, but we all put expectations and hopes and dreams on our children. And the idea that it might not happen because of a disability or medical condition, it's more roadblocks in the way of those dreams. And that's what I grieve. And then also kind of grieving normalcy for me, in my life, because we have to do so much to make their lives great. And you have to remember to take care of yourself, but that's not always easy. And you suffer, your marriage could suffer, friendships suffer, because I was like, I don't have time to see my friends. I love my friends, I love my husband, I love my family, but sometimes I get depressed and I just want to be alone. So it's finding the balance, remembering that you need to continue to foster those relationships and take care of yourself too. So not only you can be there for your child, but you got to be there for yourself too.
That's a lot.
Yes. Yes.
Okay, Cody, how about you? What were the pieces and bits that died Not that there can't be something good in the future, but the pieces that got taken away.
Didn't have a ton of that on my end. Yeah, he's always going to be held back a little bit physically just because his heart, like he's not going to be an Olympic athlete. You know, he's always a little bit more out of breath than all the other kids. But the way that I look at it, I guess, is instead of dwelling on what he's slowed down on doing, I can, as long as I'm doing everything that I can to be a good dad, I'm gonna try to help him forge a path into an area where he can excel. Really, instead of thinking about, okay, well, yeah, he won't be able to do wrestling. I was big into wrestling and football and sports and stuff like that. And he won't be able to do that at a high level, but that doesn't mean he won't be able to do it. And I'm just gonna let him decide for the most part. So I'm still excited about that. Um, I just don't know what it means for his heart, to be honest. Heart's a muscle. Muscles can strengthen with training and stuff like that. So um I just going with it, to be honest with you. But yeah, I mean it's always gonna hold back certain things. I don't know if he won't be able to go in the military. He won't be able to do certain things for sure. In fact, brought it up the other day. My wife's like, I don't think he'd be able to be a pilot. And I'm like, he could be a helicopter pilot. I don't think that'd be a problem, but I guess we'll see. But who knows? He probably doesn't even want to be that. I guess we'll run into those issues when we get there. But for right now, I mean, granted, my kids are 4.5, so the identical twins are 4.5. And what I guess hurts me the most is that Austin had such a he pulled the short straw. Like he got the heart problem. He's dealing with a lot. And the other identical twin doesn't have anything wrong with him. Right? And so I know that's going to end up creating some tension at some point, but they're like two little peas in a pod right now, so they really get along with each other. And I, as a dad and as a father and with a good wife, and I think we'll just try to keep molding that relationship into them being a support team instead of looking the other way around it.
Oh, okay. Monica, what were the pieces and bits that you've had to grieve along the way?
Yeah, I mentioned a little bit, just like Cody, some physical limitations that I mean, like, we think this now, but I don't know what's gonna be in the future. Like I said, Sawyer's pretty resilient, and I honestly, just like Deanna say, he's kind of like me. Let's not focus on what we cannot do, but what we can do. And it's just how he is, kind of like, I guess this sport is gonna be a little bit too much trouble. I'm gonna figure out a different one. Um, so I think the biggest thing is, when you have a kid, everything is possible, right? You just want to let them explore and do what they want, but literally he cannot do whatever he wants. He's always gonna have that in the back of the mind, right? Do I have enough insulin? Is my technology? Do I have enough technology? And the biggest thing is he is always going to have to need a good insurance coverage, always, unless something amazing happens with our medical system. Um, he he's not gonna live the life he's living now if he doesn't have the resources. So financially, that's something that I don't have to worry about his older brother. You know, he can do anything he wants. He can work, study. He doesn't need to worry about whether he has insurance coverage, but he does. Um, and, you know, thinking about if he goes to college, who's going to be kind of keeping an eye on him? It's a potentially dangerous disease. There's always recommended that someone is kind of keeping an eye on those numbers, because the majority of people who has this disease, the way they die is overdose with insulin. So who's going to be doing that when I'm not around? And I'm just, you know, trying to stay positive and thinking that technology is going to get better and they're going to have a smarter insulin pumps. So yeah, you know, thinking all this is something that what I grieve is, you know, my life before, where I just do what I want, eat what I want, will take a trip whenever we want, but now everything needs to be scheduled. We need to prepare for everything. And I miss those days, you know, and even when we get a little bit of relief when he's with his super group or at camps, and it's just weird, like even my body is always like, what is his number? And it's like, well, he's not here, other people is taking care of him, but it's just already in my body. Like it takes some time for me to let it go. But so those are the days I miss and I grieve, and we with my husband are always very involved with everything that's new, trials, new medications, new technology. And I think that helps us to stay in a positive path, to know, focus, like you're saying, what he kind of do, about what possibilities are out there for him.
So let's just talk just very briefly. There's a huge percentage of couples with special needs kids who get a divorce. And so what is your experience of that? How have you all held your marriages together when so many people haven't? Like, what were the struggles? What has helped? What do you think you guys did to pull this rabbit out of your hat?
I always say it's Jesus. Like, it wasn't us, it was Jesus. Because we both came from parents who weren't married, so we didn't have an example of what marriage was to begin with. And then once our son was diagnosed, my husband kind of shut down because he didn't know how to deal with his own emotions, let alone this whole situation. So it was very isolating and alone for me for many years because I was dealing with the appointments, the childcare, all these things, everything. And I just felt like I couldn't talk to him about it at that time. He's since been to therapy. He's more in touch with his feelings, and he can be a better support for the boys too. And so now he's really kind of taken the lead a little bit lately as we've gone into these teenage years, and he's doing a lot more, which is a lot helpful. But I think it's really making sure that both people don't disconnect at the same time. I think one person always has to be in, because when you're both out, you know, it's very hard to come back. But it ebbs and flows. And it's just, I think, because he was grieving in his own way too. And I had to be mindful of that. but it's like he wouldn't share. So it's just like, well, why won't you share with me? We're going through the same thing. We could face this together, but it didn't work out like that. Where now we have the means to be able to communicate when things do happen and collaborate, which is very important.
That's awesome. Cody, how did you pull the marriage rabbit out of your hat?
Me and my wife, luckily enough, she's a powerhouse of a woman. And we've actually struggled in the past before we decided to even have 3 kids or go for our third. And we ended up figuring out that most of our problems was really communication. And it was always just a communication problem. Someone was thinking one thing, the other person was thinking another. But as long as we were on the same page, we were fine. And because we'd already struggled and gone through that communication phase, when this happened, we automatically sat down and just said, this is going to be rough, right? What are we going to do? Are we going to do this together? Or are we going to, do it separately and just do our best? And what really ended up happening is we're like, no, we got to go through this together because this is going to be rough. And so I'm going to do everything I can, and we're just going to have to be better about communication. So yeah, I can't explain how that communication's almost, just to throw it at the top of my head, I'd bet 80% of divorces come from miscommunication. But that's just me, my personal thought.
Okay, thank you. Monica, so how about you guys? How did you hold it together during this crazy journey?
I think we both complement each other. Just like, he's so mellow and calm, and I'm like the more like, okay, this needs to be done. Da, 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 da. And when it came to, because you're right, especially in the type 1 community, the divorce rate I think is even higher. It's amazing, and also the strain that usually the moms have, like Deanna said, dealing with the management 24/7 appointments and this and that, the meals and all that. But with Chad, we never even needed to have a talk. We just knew that it's 50-50, like today I'm in, tomorrow you're in, and who's going to this appointment. Most of the time, honestly, it's the two of us because we want to make sure that we get everything that needs to be said, or we need to learn new stuff. I think it's because Chad is just really calm and able to just, whenever I like go into crisis mode, he just grounds me and calms me, and I do the opposite, but in a good way, kind of like we need to be a little more aggressive with how we're dealing with these and that. Like Deanna said, we had a really hard time dealing with the school. And he's like kind of almost giving up, and it's like, no, we are going to fight. This is not right that our son is not getting the same treatment. It was very complicated, but we kind of always divide and conquer, and at the end is, we both decided to bring this kid to the world, and it's not about us. And I think that's how we both feel. Like, if we have anything to say to each other, we say like it is, and move on. Communication.
Okay, thank you all so much. I have learned so much from each one of you. And at the end of my videos, I always ask people if you could just leave people with one golden nugget, like your 1 minute of wisdom for someone stepping into your shoes or similar shoes. what would it be? So, Monica, what would be the 1 minute of wisdom that you would want to share with parents who wake up and find themselves in the world of type 1 diabetes?
I will say at the beginning, one day at a time. You are going to get better at it. It does get better. It does get better, and help your child as much as you can. You don't want to throw this on your kid. It's not, it's too much for them. So help them as much as you can. It does get better. It does get better. And when it comes to technology, get the technology as soon as possible. And another thing too is educate yourself. Educate. You sometimes it's amazing how much you as a parent are educating the physicians. Sometimes they don't even know what entails to have type 1 diabetes. So the more your knowledge, the more knowledgeable you are, the more you advocate, you're just going to be more confident, and it's going to be much easier instead of just listening to the doctors. They really, the type 1 diabetes, it's not a box. Everyone has different ways how they deal with it, how their body reacts to it. So learn that, get knowledge, learn a lot.
Great.
Oh, and find support. Find a good type 1 diabetes support group.
Great. That's always great advice. Okay, Deanna, what is your 1 minute wisdom?
Like she was saying, seek community, be able to speak freely with someone and share, because shame and loneliness live in the silence. And then also self-care, so that you're able to help your family. Someone just reminded me, you put on your oxygen mask first, and then you put on your child's. So just remember that, so that you're there when they need you, and you're there for yourself as well. And then also focusing on not so much what you feel that you've lost, because like I said, I'm grieving things that may never have come to fruition, but focusing on the positives and the triumphs and the positive gains that your child has made, and the good times. Because if you keep on focusing on what you've lost or what you could have had, you won't see the beauty that's right in front of you.
Absolutely. Thank you, Deanna. Okay, Cody, what is your 1 minute wisdom for somebody whose child has congenital heart disease?
I would say that there's a lot of different types of congenital heart disease, so you're gonna have to figure out what that looks like for your kids specifically. But try to still make sure that they have the most normal life as possible, so that they can still earn the confidences of sports and certain things. I mean, there's so many different things that we can get our kids into that give them confidence. Doesn't always have to be physical, but making sure that happens, and then making sure that you're communicating with the people that are around you, so that you have a great support group.
That's great. Okay, thank you all. I'm so honored that you agreed to be here and share with me and each other. And I'm going to turn off the recording really quick.